Good evening. I'm Tanya Morgan, and I have the pleasure of introducing you to tonight's storytellers for Turning Points for Children's Virtual Gala. Through storytelling, we have the power to teach, to inspire, and to heal others as well as ourselves. Tonight, we have four amazing employees from Turning Points who will be sharing their unique experiences working with children and their families. Each story will shine a light on how hope and humor can be found in the most uncertain places. First up, we have Justin, and his story I titled Lessons from a 6-Year-Old.
So I like to think of myself as a pretty cool, kind of even-keeled guy, love to have fun, and live life to the fullest. Not much catches me by surprise, and I don't get overly emotional. But this story that I'm about to tell you is a time that really caught me by surprise. A few years back, we'll call it a typical Tuesday. I drive up to the office, get out the car, I have my Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee, a bagel, get into the office, and I speak to everyone like I normally do. Good morning, how you doing? And then I get into my office and I start my day as normal. But as I'm walking in there, I realize there's a young boy sitting in the office in one of our rooms with some coloring materials before him, some markers and a coloring book. He couldn't have been any more than 6 years old. And I saw him just sitting in the chair, looking real straight, looking outside the window. I didn't really think too much about it because many people and children come into the office, so I go on about my day and check off everything on my to-do list. A few hours later, as I go to get some water, I realize that this boy is still sitting in the room. So now I'm curious. So I walk around and I begin to ask, who is this young boy? And someone tells me, oh, he's actually waiting for a new foster home. He had a disruption last night and we had to find something new for him. I said, okay, well, please keep me informed because it's been a little while that he's been sitting here, so let me know. Not too long goes by, and the case manager comes and tells me, we found a placement for this little boy. I was super excited for that. She says, there's one issue though. I have to go to court, and there's no one else here to be able to take him, so he's gonna be here for a little while longer. Almost instantly, I came to myself and I said, you know what? Let me do it. I want to take him because he's been sitting here all day long, don't know anyone, and I can only imagine the things that he has gone through, the trauma, the stress, and he's sitting here in an office. So I'm going to do it. Yes, I'm going to take him to his foster home. So I go into the room, I'm so excited, walk in there, I introduce myself, and I said, I'm going to take you to your new foster home. We go on. We get in the car. I put everything in my GPS, and I'm excited to take him to his placement. It's rush hour, and man, it's going to take me over an hour to get to that home. So I call my wife. I cancel everything else for the evening and say, my focus and priority is getting him to this home. He didn't say much in the car, and me being me, I needed him to feel comfortable with me. So I began to ask him some questions. Hey, let's talk about your favorite TV show or cartoon. Mine's Ninja Turtles. He kind of looks at me and goes, huh? And I realize my generation's completely different. So then I said, what about music? What music do you like to listen to? He says, I like 2 Chainz. I said, 2 Chainz? I said, who's 2 Chainz? He says, it's a rapper. I said, oh, okay. Well, does he cuss? A little bit. I said, oh, I'm sorry, we can't listen to 2 Chainz in my car. Time goes on, and I realize what he needs. Every kid needs it, and that is McDonald's. So I thought about it, and I said, hey, are you hungry? He said, yes. I said, how about we stop at McDonald's? Every kid loves a Happy Meal. He said he wanted Popeyes. Okay, we'll go to Popeyes. We get to Popeyes. He orders a 4-piece and a large drink. 6 years old. We walked back to my car, and I realized he was looking at it. So I'm thinking, hey, let me connect with him. You like my car? He goes, it's an SUV. SUVs are corny. Excuse me? Is what I'm thinking. My car is corny? Does he not understand that I have heated and cooled seats? My car corny? Wait a minute. Calm down, Justin. This boy is only 6 years old, and he's gone through so much. I'm not going to allow him to offend me. And I took off the afternoon to drop him off? Wait. We arrived to the foster home, and I say, hey, we made it to Mr. X's house. And he says, Mr. X? Why am I not going with the mommy? And I stop and realize he doesn't even know that single male foster parents exist. So instantaneously, I had to turn into protector. I wasn't just going to drop him off, but I was going to make sure that he felt comfortable in Mr. X's house. So we go in. I shake Mr. X's hand. He's a sweet, gentle guy. I begin to walk around his home, make sure that his home was appropriate. I looked in his refrigerator. I wanted to make sure he had snacks appropriate for him. We looked in the closet, walked up to his room, began to unpack his belongings. Mr. X had made a nice little bundle for him while he was there sitting on his bed. As we finish unpacking, we come back downstairs. We sit down in the living room. We begin to just chat. And I see that this young boy begins to open up a little bit, and maybe the stress lowered just a little bit. So I feel comfortable enough to say, you know what? My job is done. I shake Mr. X's hand, high-five the little boy, and say, have a good night. Someone else will be here to check on you in the next morning. As I walk to my car, I'm walking, feeling so proud because I took the opportunity to make an impact in somebody's life, even if it was just for a small moment. It put a smile on my face. I get home, and I just embrace my wife and my child. As we go to bed, I cut off the light, I lay down, say goodnight, but I just can't get to sleep. So I nudge over to my wife, and I go, babe. She goes, yes. I said, do you like our SUV? She goes, Justin, go to sleep. And I ask her again, but no, really, do you like our SUV? She goes, yes. Why are you asking me this? I go, never mind. Go to sleep. So lesson learned from this story. It's not about getting him chicken or making him listen to music or even walking around the home with him or dissing my SUV. But it's about connection and taking the time to make sure that he was a priority above everything else. Small moments like these have a potential to have a huge impact on a child's life. Thank you for listening to my story.
Thank you, Justin. What a remarkable story. I can't believe he got schooled by a 6-year-old. But I think one of the biggest lessons here is, how did he put it? The smallest moments have the biggest impact. Our next storyteller is Lou. This is a story that can be hot and cold, and it also involves a phone call. Are you going to pick up?
Hi, my name is Lou, and I've worked at Turning Points for Children for nearly 12 years now. Currently, I'm the Senior Director of Family Services, which means I work with our older youth services, our food pantries, our foster care and adoption services, and family engagement services. Who am I, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. I'm your average type A extroverted Scorpio, but most importantly, I'm one of 2 dads to 2 adorable children who were both adopted through foster care. Now, I'm here today to tell you a story to help celebrate our 2020 virtual Kids Are Heart Gala, a story that happened recently to me and that I will never forget, and I'm hoping it will light up your light like it did mine. Note to self, fun fact, Lou cannot wink. Every year, children are displaced from their families throughout the country. Our family finders work diligently, day in and day out, to help locate these kin for the children that they're servicing. Now back to my story. After a long day at work, I'm home, just finished dinner, putting the kids to bed. I decided to sit on the couch and watch the previous night's episode of The Real Housewives of whatever. You know, self-care, right? And so I'm sitting down, ready to go to see what's going on and recap the last week's episode, and I hear my work cell phone buzzing. I look at it, and now between you and me, I'm used to getting phone calls day and night. That's part of the job that we do, right? But what was different was usually the calls are from 215, 610, 484, or 267 area codes. This time, it was 808. So naturally, you think it's spam, right? So I'm still debating what to do. The phone's ringing and ringing. I quickly take out my personal phone and Google 808 area code and learn that the call is coming from Hawaii. Now I'm still debating what to do, but finally go with my instincts, pause The Real Housewives, and say, "Hello, this is Luke Rowe-Miller from Turning Point for Children. How can I help you?" Immediately, I hear a man say, "Hi, you're the fourth person I try to contact. I got this letter about a kid." So let me pause you. Right now, I automatically assume it's a family finding case because family finders typically use snail mail as a way to engage initially the bio family or the relatives of the kids that we're working with. So I say, "Okay, sir, how are you doing?" And I then grab my laptop, connect to the VPN. Thank you, PHMC. And then I start asking him questions. I ask him what the kids' names listed on the letter. And as he's providing me information, I'm using my active listening skills. You know, oh, tell me more, great. And the information's pulling up on my screen. And so I'm chit-chatting with him to just see what he'll engage me with. Knowing that he's from Hawaii, though, I asked, "Where are you calling from?" He's like, "Oh, Hawaii. Have you ever been?" I was like, "Actually, no. But it's on my bucket list of places to go." And so we chit-chat a little more. I learn it's 83 degrees at 3:00 p.m., where he's calling from, and he's looking at the Pacific Ocean from his front window. I then turn around, look out my front window. I see darkness, people in coats, 20, 30-degree weather, and frost all over my car. Isn't that great? But back to the story. As the information pulls up, I learned that this father is the father of a child who's about to be adopted. I learned that this father lost his paternal rights many years ago when the kid was a toddler. I learned that he wasn't there when the rights got terminated because it could not be found. I then pause, actually turn off The Real Housewives, and get myself prepared for what could be a difficult conversation. Now, I said to him, "Sir, I can't go into specifics, but your son's about to be adopted by his foster parents. Your family finding worker was reaching out to you to see if you'd be willing to be involved in his life, post-adoption. Now, you don't have to do this, and your son does not know we will talk, or doesn't have to know we will talk. The choice is completely up to you. However, as a parent of an adopted child, I know how important communicating with you and having you be involved in his life can be, maybe next week, next month, next year, next decade." And before I could even answer and finish my sentence, he said, "Sir, please, what can I do? What do you need from me?" And so I sat going, "Okay, this is great." Because between you and me, I have these conversations all the time, working with family finding for the past 10 years. Most of the time, though, the call usually ends in abrupt disconnections. It ends in screaming or threats. But this time is different. The father, paused, and he said to me, "You know, mister, I think about my son all the time. I was young, I was in the military, I didn't know what to do." And then I paused, because I didn't know what to say then. I gathered my thoughts and said, "Sir, I completely understand, and no one here is judging you right now. But let me help you reconnect with your son." So we talk about next steps, We talk about what we can do in the future, what to expect. And he goes, sir, stop. 1 second. I'm like, yeah. You wanted to go to Hawaii, right? And I was like, yeah, who doesn't? He's like, well, look at your calendar. I want to take you, your wife, and your kids to Hawaii, and you can stay with us. I said, sir, thank you very, very much for the offer, and I really appreciate that. But let's focus on you right now. I said, we'll deal with that later on. And so we continue the conversation. I let him know this family finding worker will call him within a day or two, and then he hung up the phone. I immediately sat down, documented the conversation, which is just as important, and thought about how one swipe to the left, one unexpected hello, changed his life. And I was overwhelmed with a sense of joy and happiness, and I couldn't wipe that smile off my face. But back to the story, right? A month or so later, and the father calls me again, extremely delighted to tell me the news that he and his son are now corresponding via phone. He learned that his son is interested in joining the military, and they have so many other similarities. This father was so delighted for the engagement and the work we do here at Family Finding. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is what Family Finding and Turning Points is all about. Now, this story, while it is a story I'm sharing with all of you, and note that it's his story to tell for the most part. I'm just sharing snippets of it. But I hope that you realize what the work that we do here in Turning Points is all about. Turning Points has changed my life and the lives of so many others. And just think how one simple hello, one simple answer to the call, one simple letter can change the life of somebody, can be a turning point, and possibly lead to a place to go to for vacation. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Lou. I all of a sudden have a craving for coconuts. But look at that. He didn't have to pick up the phone, but he did, and reconnected a father with a long-lost son. How amazing is that? Maybe next time you'll answer that unrestricted phone call. Our next storyteller is Sydney. Now, if you're the type of person who likes everything in its place, this next story is certain to unnerve you. Take it away, Sydney.
Hi, my name is Sydney, and I'm so happy to be here with you. I have a little story to share that I hope you'll enjoy. Finally, a moment alone in my office. Well, it's more like a conference room center because it's only used for meetings, pep talks, and the occasional meltdowns by family and staff. I sit down at my desk, get out my long list of to-do when the phone rings. Hello? Hey, how's it going? I have a lot of favorite kids. Which one is that? Oh, Deshaun, you're right. He is my favorite. Well, what happened? This is his 4th placement in 6 months. I know. It's not his fault. It never is. I'm on my way down now. I take the 2-minute walk down the hallway full of supervisors' offices, down through the bank of cubicles occupied by our case managers, where I'm intentional to not answer any questions and get distracted. I see Deshaun sitting off in the corner with his sister and his case manager. But before I can get to him, his sister runs over and says, "Hey, Miss Sydney." Deshaun is really sad. And just as quickly as she came over, she bounced away. See, Deshaun is 6, and he has some language issues, and it's hard for him to express his emotions, and often his sister feels like she has to translate for him. But she knew I knew him and felt like he was in good hands. "Hey, Deshaun, you look sad. Is everything okay?" He looked back, didn't say anything. "Do you want to come with me to my office?" He nods and follows me. We take a different route back to my office. In preparation for the meeting, I set a few things on my large wooden conference room table, things that he would enjoy. Some crayons, some paper, and his favorite dinosaur that he kept in my office. Deshaun and his sister came into care several months ago, and I got to know them better because I took them to school every day. Oftentimes, case managers have a lot on their plate, and so whenever I can jump in to help, I usually do. Deshaun and I arrived at the office, sat at the wooden table, and I proceeded to ask him tons of questions, mostly about his friends at school and cartoon characters. With each question that I asked, he threw something on the floor. First it was the crayon, then he balled up a piece of paper and threw it. I asked one more question, which obviously he didn't want to answer, because then he grabbed his favorite toy, the dinosaur, held it in his hand. He looked at me, looked at the dinosaur, and looked back at me. I said, "Go for it." And he flung it against the wall. I don't know what it was about the thump against the wall, but he looked so relieved. Oh no, I'm getting ready to do something. I hope this is the right thing. I don't want it to backfire, but we're going to go for it and see what happens. Go for it, Deshaun. He found things in my office to throw. First it was the stapler. Then he found a notebook. And with each thump of the object on the floor, he got more and more excited. The insides were going crazy. I'm letting this kid do what he wants to do. He threw the chair on the floor. I slowly stood up, walked to the office door, closed it, and let him go to town. In rapid fire, he threw all 7 chairs on the floor, each with a loud thump. He got up, walked towards my 6-foot whiteboard. I was able to catch his attention and say, "Deshaun, I'm okay with you throwing items, but we got to do this safely. So if I stand in front of something, I need you to stop and move to something else. Nod if you hear me and say okay if you understand." He did both. He nodded and said okay. I proceeded to watch Deshaun find everything in my office to destroy. Pictures, paper clips, all of it. Decimated. The office was destroyed. When he seemed like he was done, he sat down in the chair. I slowly walked over and said, "Hey, can I give you a hug?" He didn't say anything. I hugged him anyway and sat on the floor behind him. "Whew, you look tired, Deshaun." "Mm-hmm. Are you thirsty?" "Yeah." "All right, well, let's go get some water." Deshaun and I take the short trip down the hall to a water cooler. He breathlessly drank the cup of water. Thirst quenched, emotionally satisfied, we walked back to the office. We stood for a moment at the threshold of the office door, and we both looked proudly, but for very different reasons. He looked proud that he destroyed, I mean completely destroyed that office. And I looked proudly at Deshaun that I, as an adult, allowed him to do such a thing. You see, kids in foster care don't often get to express their anger because they're scared. They're scared their foster parents are going to put them out of their home and have them move to another place. But in this case, I was scared of the anger, but I let him go for it. "All right, Deshaun, time to clean up the office." "Okay." And without much conversation or interaction, Deshaun put my office back together, picked up all the chairs, put the items back on the table. Said, "You ready?" He said, "Yes." Took his hand. We walked back downstairs to where his sister and the case manager were waiting for us in the visitation center. I scooted him along, gave him a thumbs up and a attaboy. He walked off with his case manager and left the building. I stood there for a moment and thought, I love that kid. Like, really, really love him. Like, I wanted the best for him and hoped that the foster parent that was going to get Deshaun would feel the same way. Turns out that was the last time he needed to go to a new placement. The home was stable. Now, they had their bumps and bruises, and I served as a pep talker along the way. But ultimately, the foster parent did love Deshaun the way I did. And I hope that you, too, will find it in your hearts to support kids like Deshaun through their times of need. Thank you for your support, and I appreciate you listening.
Thank you, Sydney. Man, if she could bottle up that patience, she would be a millionaire. But the moral of the story is, sometimes you need to throw a dinosaur. Our last storyteller is Daryl. He will command your attention and open your heart.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Daryl Smith Jr., and if you haven't noticed, I have freckles. And, I've had them all my life, or most of my life, but I'm going to tell you a story that has nothing to do with my freckles, even though everything kind of has to do with my freckles. My freckles and I kind of have a love-hate relationship, but that's besides the point. The story I want to tell you is about how I gained an additional godson. So I have godchildren, and most of them came the normative way. You know, you have a friend or a family member who you have a solid relationship and they trust you, and they think, you know, should something happen to them, they would like you to care for their child. So that's how most of them came to me. But one came to me in a very unique and special way, and it's a long story. The story actually continues on, and it should, right? This is my godchild now. So to get right to it, I met this family maybe in 2012. A woman named Tiffany Sheridan and her son Evan. I met them while they were dealing with some real issues, and Evan unfortunately was in foster care and frankly had been there all of his life since birth. So you would see Evan at our office all the time, and he was just such an adorable kid, light brown skin. He would have the fade on his side and the curls at the top, and the curls just looked so soft you wanted to touch them, but you don't touch them. Do not touch them. Right, so everybody would come gather around when Evan came. Can I hold him? He's so cute. He's just wanting to play with him. I really appreciate you having him. People would congratulate her on having such a beautiful child. And I would see Evan maybe twice a week, sometimes more, and I would supervise his visits from time to time. So fast forward, the system changes, and CUA's, community umbrella agencies, are created. And I joined Turning Points for Children at CUA 3. One of my first, say, 2 or 3 cases, I find a Sheridan case is now being assigned to me. And it doesn't ring a bell, but as I'm reading it, things are starting to click. And I'm remembering a woman who was very problematic, often getting in arguments with her previous worker, often having issues with staff. And as I'm reading more and more, my emotions kind of shift. My thought process changes a bit. I'm like, well, if I knew her story, maybe I would have been more empathetic. So to get on going with it, find out that it's Tiffany Sheridan, speak with her, and she remembers me because she remembers my freckles. Doesn't remember my name at all, but remembers the freckles. You're Mr. Freckles. No, my name is Mr. Darrell Smith Jr. You can call me Mr. Darrell. Fast forward and keeping on going, I build a very solid working relationship. And one of the things I say to Ms. Sheridan is, listen, if you want your son back, I'm going to put you in the best position to do that. You just have to really do exactly what I say. And she agrees to that. Now, Ms. Sheridan has a longtime boyfriend, fiance, at the time she would and he would say. So I'm advocating and working for this family to be reunified as a family one unit. Ultimately, we do achieve a degree of reunification with ongoing supervision under the Philadelphia Department of Human Services, of which CUA is contracted in providing the supervision. One day, I'm in my office, and I get a phone call from Evan's father. He says, yo, Mr. Darrell, I'm outside, come get him. So I'm at my desk at CUA 3, and I'm just confused. What does that mean, right? I'm outside, come get him. So I reluctantly go to the door. I open the door. I see Evan. I see 5 large black trash bags. And frankly, I'm shocked. Like, this doesn't happen. Fathers, mothers, parents do not give back their kid. They fight for them. So this is, all this experience I got, this has just never happened. I'm confused. But ultimately, he leaves. I have to take Evan. Put him in a foster home that he was familiar with. He had been there for, since the beginning of his life, a nice couple. Work with Ms. Sheridan and really begin to understand he manipulated me to a degree in the system to leverage that relationship to keep her underfoot. And Ms. Sheridan had enough. Now, she's strong, all right? In a lot of ways, she's brilliant. And so ultimately, we achieve reunification. She gets her son, we close the case. And Ms. Sheridan makes progress. For a moment in time, she actually worked for Turning Points for Children at CUA 3. And kudos to her. Ultimately, that position is gone, and randomly, I get a phone call from Ms. Sheridan after having no contact with her for quite some time. Hey, Mr. Darrell, Freckles. Who's this? Tiffany, my sister's name is Tiffany. I knew plenty of Tiffany's. You got to be more specific. Tiffany Sheridan Evans' mom. Definitely know who you are. What's going on? Hey, look, I want you to be Evan's godfather, and I want you to be my brother. Run that back. I want you to be Evan's godfather, and I want you to be my brother. But look, I got 4 sisters. I don't need another one. Trust me, I love my sisters, but it's a lot to invest in being a big brother. If you want to be a good big brother, I mean, you big brothers, you know it's a lot. But Miss Sheridan, again, I said she's brilliant. She learned from whatever I was doing to help her achieve reunification. She learned from whatever life had taught her. And she called me often and consistently and social worked me. Old school social work. She waited on hold. She left voice messages. She was that consistent. And frankly, she broke down my walls to the point where I said, you know what? I'll be your brother, and you are now my sister. And Evan will be my godson, and I will treat him as I would treat my son, and I will be there for him from this day forward. And that's where we are now. I am there for my godson. I am there for my sister. And frankly, she is there for me. She's a great sister. I love my biological sisters. She's a great bonus. She's a bonus sister. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here because I want to be here. I've been at Turning Points for 6 years. I know the mission. I respect the mission. I am the mission. You can open your heart. You'll feel more. Open your heart. Give more. Open your heart. You will receive more. You can have your own story, create your own story, be the turning point in a child's life. This is my story. What's yours?
Thank you, Daryl, AKA Mr. Freckles. What a powerful story. And he didn't even need a can opener to open our hearts. These are just a few of the amazing stories that happen every day. Daryl challenged us tonight to tell our story. What's your story? Can your story change the life of someone else? One way is by supporting the mission of Turning Points for Children. Thank you for tuning in, and have a good night.